The night was quiet, too quiet for the city that never slept. Metal towers shimmered under the pale moon, and neon lights flickered like dying stars. Among the crowded streets, a small alien girl moved with soft steps. Her name was Lyra. She was thin, barefoot, and only 12 years old, but her eyes were sharp with fear. She should have been home, but she was not. She was running from something she could not even name. Lyra never wanted to see anything dangerous. She only wanted food. She only wanted safety. She only wanted a normal life. But fate pushed her into a place she should never have entered. It happened when she slipped into an old storage hall near the power station. She hoped to find something she could sell. She hoped no one would see her. She hoped she would leave quickly, but she stopped breathing them when she looked inside. In the center of the hall stood 5 tall figures. They wore long dark coats and metal masks that hid their faces. Strange symbols glowed on the floor beneath them. Lyra had never seen symbols like that before. The air around them moved like smoke, even though nothing burned. She was about to turn back quietly, until she heard a voice she recognized, a high-ranking officer from her city. The officer whispered, "Activate it before dawn. No witness must remain." Lyra's heart shook inside her chest. She stepped backward too quickly. A tiny piece of metal fell from her belt and hit the cold floor. Clink. The masked figures stopped talking. They turned their heads toward the sound. Lyra froze. She pressed her back against the wall. Her whole body trembled. She could hear her own heartbeat. She wished she could disappear. She wished she had never come here. A deep voice growled, "Someone is here." Light cut across the room. A scanner beam swept toward her. She turned and ran without thinking. Her feet slapped the ground as she escaped into the dark street outside. Behind her, alarms started ringing. Shouts filled the hall. Heavy footsteps followed her. She did not look back. She ran through alleys full of trash. She ran through markets closing for the night. Workers stared at her as she passed, but none tried to help. Everyone knew better than to interfere when the masked hunters appeared. Everyone understood the danger. Lyra hid behind broken crates, breathing hard. She peeked around the corner. 2 masked soldiers walked past her hiding place. They carried weapons that hummed with deadly energy. She saw everything. One said, "She cannot be allowed to live," the other answered. Lyra pressed her hands against her ears. Tears filled her eyes. She did not want to die. She did not want to become a target. But she had seen something forbidden, something dark, something powerful. Now they wanted to erase her. Hours passed as she moved from one hiding spot to another. Her legs hurt. Her throat burned. She was too young to face something like this alone. She crawled into a shadowed alley behind an old repair shop. Her body was shaking from fear and cold. She whispered to herself, "Please, someone help me. Anyone." But no one came. She curled up, hugging her knees, trying not to cry. Her people did not protect weak ones like her. They only protected their secrets. A sound made her lift her head. Footsteps. Slow, steady, and heavy. She held her breath and pressed herself deeper into the corner. A tall figure approached the alley. Lyra expected to see another mask, another soldier, another reason to run. But this figure was different. He had no mask, no armor, no glowing weapon. He was human. His clothes were worn. His face looked tired. But his eyes were sharp and alive as he scanned the alley. He saw her. Lyra swallowed. She considered running, but her legs were too weak. She could only stare at him with wide, scared eyes. The human stepped closer, but not too close. His voice was calm and low. "Hey, are you hurt?" Lyra shook her head, but tears fell anyway. "You're trembling," he said softly. "Who's chasing you?" She opened her mouth, but no words came out. Fear blocked everything. He slowly crouched down to her level. His hands stayed open, showing he had no intention to harm her. "It's okay," he said. "I'm not here to hurt you." Lyra wanted to believe him. She wanted to trust him. But she had never trusted anyone before. Suddenly, the sound of marching echoed down the street again. The masked hunters were back. The human's eyes narrowed. He understood the danger instantly. He whispered, "If you stay here, they will find you." Lyra looked at him with desperate eyes. "Do you want me to help you?" he asked. For the first time in her life, Lyra reached out to someone. She nodded. The human extended his hand toward her. "Then come with me," he said. "I won't abandon you." Lyra placed her small hand in his and her life changed forever. The human led Lyra out of the alley, moving quietly but fast. His steps were confident, but his eyes kept scanning the shadows. He did not know who she was. He did not know why armored hunters were looking for her. But he knew one thing with certainty: she was in danger, and he could not walk away. Lyra stayed close behind him, her small hand gripping his coat tightly. Every sound made her jump. Every flash of light made her flinch. She had spent her whole life being invisible, unwanted, forgotten. And now that she was finally seen, she wished she wasn't. "What's your name?" the human asked softly as they slipped into a narrow passage between two old buildings. "Lyra," she whispered. "Lyra." He repeated gently, as if saying her name made it real. "I'm Caleb." The name felt warm, steady. Lyra held it in her heart, something to hold on to while everything else fell apart. They turned a corner and stopped. Ahead of them, two masked soldiers stood guard, scanning the street with glowing red eyes. Lyra's heart froze, and she immediately tried to pull Caleb back, but Caleb raised a hand. "Stay behind me," he whispered. She did. He waited until the soldiers looked away. Then Caleb moved again, guiding her through an abandoned market filled with broken stalls and empty crates. The wind pushed loose paper across the floor, and the neon lights above flickered like lightning. Lyra tugged at his coat. "Why are you helping me?" she asked in a shaking voice. Caleb did not slow down. "Because you're scared," he said. "And no child should run from people who want to kill her." She stared at him. No one from her world ever spoke like that. "But people hate humans," she whispered. Caleb gave a small, sad smile. "People hate humans until they need one." His words confused her, but she did not question further. She was too tired, too scared, too desperate. They reached the back of the market where a metal gate blocked the way. Caleb grabbed the lock, twisted it, and forced it open with his bare hands. Lyra stared quietly. She had never seen such strength without armor. The moment they slipped inside, Lyra felt a sudden wave of weakness. Her legs shook, and she fell to her knees. Caleb turned quickly. "Hey, easy, look at me," he said, kneeling in front of her. Her breath came in sharp gasps. She pressed her hands against her chest. "I can't breathe." Caleb frowned and placed a hand on her shoulder. "You're panicking," he said. "Slow breaths, like this." He inhaled slowly, showing her. Lyra tried to copy him, but her body would not listen. Her vision blurred. She felt like she was sinking. Caleb gently cupped her face with both hands. "Lyra, listen to me. You're safe right now. They don't see us. Breathe with me." She tried again, and again. Finally her breath slowed. Her heart calmed. Her body softened. Caleb sighed with relief. "Good, you did well." Lyra blinked up at him. No one had ever spoken to her like that. No one had ever helped her calm down. She felt something new, a small seed of trust. Before she could speak, a loud metal crash echoed through the market. Caleb's expression hardened instantly. "There. Close," he whispered. He lifted Lyra gently into his arms. She gasped softly, but she did not resist. Caleb carried her through another tight passage that led behind the old repair shop. His arms were warm. His chest was steady. She felt safer than she had ever felt in her life. They stopped beside a rusted transport hoverbike. Caleb set her down carefully and checked the engine. "It still works," he said. "Good." Lyra watched him curiously. Where are we going?" "Somewhere they can't find you," Caleb answered. Before she could ask more, the sound of boots thundered nearby. A spotlight cut across the wall. The masked soldiers were sweeping the area. Caleb climbed onto the hoverbike and reached out a hand. "Lyra." "Now," he said, firm but calm. She hesitated only a moment before taking his hand and climbing behind him. She wrapped her arms around his waist tightly. Caleb whispered, "Hold on." The hoverbike roared to life. In the next second, they shot forward just as soldiers ran into the alley behind them. Energy bolts fired through the air. The ground exploded into sparks where Lyra had been standing seconds ago. She buried her face into Caleb's back as they sped through the neon-lit night, dodging debris, weaving between towers, and racing past confused citizens. "They're still behind us," Lyra cried as she looked back. "I know," Caleb said. He leaned forward and pushed the bike faster. Lyra felt the cold wind cut across her skin. She felt her heart race with terror. But through it all, she held on to Caleb, the only person who did not let her face danger alone. Caleb drove the hoverbike through the night like a man running from ghosts. Neon signs flashed past them, tall towers blurred into streaks of blue light, and the cold wind cut across their faces. Behind them, the masked soldiers flew on black speeders, their engines roaring like angry beasts. Lyra clung tightly to Caleb, her arms shaking around his waist. She could hear the soldiers shouting commands. She could hear scanners beeping. She could hear her own heartbeat, fast and painful. "They won't stop," she whispered. "They want me dead." Caleb didn't look back. "Then we won't let them catch us." His voice was steady, too steady. Lyra wondered how a human could stay calm while death chased them through the sky. She tightened her grip as the bike dipped suddenly to avoid a flying patrol drone. Energy bolts exploded inches away from them, lighting the sky with blue fire. "Hold on," Caleb shouted. He swerved hard, racing between two giant pipes. The bike skimmed so close that sparks flew from the side. One of the soldiers tried to follow, but the pipe smashed against his speeder, sending it spinning into a wall. The crash gave them a moment of space. But Lyra knew it would not last. The hunters were trained. They never gave up, and they always cleaned their mistakes. She was their mistake. Caleb slowed the bike and slipped into a dark tunnel leading under the city. The air grew colder. Metal walls dripped with old water. Shadows danced between broken lights. Finally, he brought the bike to a stop. "We'll hide here for a minute," he said, jumping off. Lyra slid down shakily. Her legs almost gave out. Caleb steadied her with one hand. "You okay?" he asked. She nodded, but tears rolled down her cheeks. "I don't want to die." Caleb knelt in front of her. His gaze was firm, as if trying to push strength into her through his eyes alone. "You won't," he said. "Not while I'm here." No one had ever spoken to her with such certainty. Not a single person in her life had ever promised her safety. That alone made her chest tighten. Caleb checked the tunnel, listening carefully. Lyra watched him. He looked different from anyone in her world. Humans were often described as weak, reckless, and emotional. But Caleb moved like someone who had survived many dangers long before meeting her. He returned to her side. "Okay," he said. "Tell me what you saw." Lyra's breath caught in her throat. She wrapped her arms around herself. I'm scared." "I know," he said gently. "But I need to understand why they want you dead." Lyra closed her eyes. The memory cut into her like a blade. "I was looking for food in the storage hall," she began. "I heard voices, strange voices." Caleb waited patiently. "They were standing around a symbol," she said, her voice trembling. A symbol that glowed like fire, and there was a machine. A machine that wasn't from our world. Caleb frowned. What kind of machine? Lyra shook her head quickly. I don't know, but the officer said. He said it could destroy everything. Caleb's eyes sharpened. He leaned closer. Did they activate it? No, Lyra whispered. They were waiting for dawn. And they said no witness must survive. Caleb took a slow breath. The tunnel felt colder now. So they're not just hiding something, he said quietly. They're preparing something. Lyra nodded, hugging herself tighter. Caleb stood and walked a few steps away, thinking fast. Lyra watched him. She could see his mind racing like a machine. He was planning. He was calculating. He was trying to save her, but could he save himself too? Before she could speak, the sound of engines echoed into the tunnel. Lyra froze. They found us, she whispered. Caleb cursed under his breath and grabbed her hand. We have to move. He pulled her deeper into the tunnel. The air filled with static as drones entered behind them. Their lights scanned every corner, searching for movement. Lyra stumbled, but Caleb lifted her into his arms without stopping. How do they keep tracking us? She cried. Caleb's jaw tightened. Your people use scent-based scanners, he sighed. They follow biological traces. Lyra felt sick. Then we can't hide? Caleb looked down at her. We can, but we need to go where they won't dare. Where? She whispered. He pointed ahead. A giant door stood at the end of the tunnel. Rusted. Broken. Silent. Beyond it lay the lower sectors. The one place even hunters feared. Caleb kicked the door open. Darkness rushed out like cold breath. Lyra shivered. Is it safe? No, Caleb said honestly. But it's safer than them. He stepped inside, holding her close. Behind them, the hunters' footsteps grew louder. In front of them, the darkness swallowed everything. Lyra buried her face in Caleb's shoulder, and together, they vanished into the forbidden depths. The darkness inside the lower sector was thick like smoke. Even the dim lights from above could not reach this place. The air smelled of rust and forgotten years. Pipes hissed softly from the walls, dripping water that echoed through the empty corridors. Lyra tightened her grip around Caleb's neck as he carried her deeper inside. What is this place? She whispered. Caleb stepped carefully over broken metal plates. A district the city abandoned long ago, he said. Machines failed here. People vanished. No one comes down anymore. Why? She asked. Caleb met her eyes briefly. Because the danger down here doesn't wear masks. Lyra swallowed, her throat dry. She had heard stories about this place, stories of strange shadows, machines that moved on their own, and creatures created from old experiments. But she never thought she would enter it. Behind them, the echoes of soldiers faded. They would not dare follow Caleb into the broken district. Not yet. Not without backup. A cold breeze crawled across Lyra's skin. She shivered and clung closer to Caleb. He adjusted his hold and whispered, "Don't look behind us. Only look where we're going." She nodded, burying her face against him. They continued through a long corridor until they reached a wide metal chamber. Old screens flickered weakly around them, showing static that danced like ghosts. A single emergency lamp blinked from the ceiling, giving the room a sickly yellow glow. Caleb gently set Lyra down. "We rest here," he said. Lyra leaned against a broken terminal, trying to calm her shaking legs. Her eyes searched the darkness around them. "Do the hunters come here?" she asked. Caleb shook his head. "Most people don't survive long in this sector. Even they avoid it, unless they must." Lyra pulled her knees to her chest. "Then we are not safe." Caleb sat beside her. "Not completely," he said, "but safer than before." He touched a broken cable, checking its temperature. It was cold. Lyra looked at him. "Caleb, why are you helping me?" "You don't even know me," he sighed. "Because I've seen people hunted before. I've seen what fear does to a child." His voice softened. "I won't let it happen again." Lyra's chest tightened. She had grown up believing humans were selfish, violent, and uncaring. But this human, he was different. He was the only one who stood between her and death. Before she could speak, a low sound rumbled through the chamber. Lyra jumped. "What was that?" Caleb stood quickly. His hand reached for the knife strapped to his leg. "Stay behind me." The rumble grew louder, like something heavy dragging itself across metal. The shadows at the far end of the room shifted. Something moved. Lyra held her breath. A large machine, covered in dust and wires, crawled out from the darkness. Its metal arms scraped the ground, and its single red sensor blinked like a dying eye. It was an old maintenance bot, but something was wrong with it. Its movements were jerky, unnatural. Caleb raised his knife. "It's malfunctioning. Don't touch it." The bot turned toward them with a grinding noise. Then it suddenly burst. "Forward!" Lyra screamed. Caleb lunged sideways, pulling her with him. The bot slammed into a metal structure, bending it with a loud crash. Sparks rained across the floor. The bot rotated its head, searching for them. Caleb pushed Lyra behind a pile of rubble. "Stay low. What will you do?" she whispered. "Stop that thing." The bot charged again. Caleb ran toward it, not away. Lyra watched in horror as he dodged its swinging arm and climbed onto its back. He shoved his knife deep into a cluster of wires. The bot screeched, thrashing violently. Caleb held on with all his strength. The machine slammed itself against the wall, trying to crush him. Metal cracked around them. Lyra covered her mouth so she wouldn't scream. She wanted to help, but she was too small, too weak. With a final push, Caleb ripped out the main wire bundle. The bot froze. Then it collapsed. The chamber fell silent again. Caleb breathed heavily as he stepped off the machine. A cut on his arm bled slowly. He wiped the blood with his sleeve. Lyra rushed to him. "You're hurt." "It's nothing," he said. "Just a scratch." She stared at him. "You fought that monster for me." "I fought it because it was in our way," Caleb said softly. "But yes, I wasn't going to let it reach you." Lyra felt warmth fill her chest. For the first time in her life, someone risked something for her. Before she could reply, a distant echo called through the tunnels. Voices, not from machines, from soldiers. They entered the district. Caleb said sharply, "They're forcing themselves in." Lyra's heart froze. "Then how will we escape?" Caleb grabbed her hand. "Not through the tunnels," he said, pulling her to her feet. "We go deeper." "Deeper?" she whispered. "Isn't it worse?" Caleb looked into her eyes. "Sometimes the only way out is down." And with that, he led her into the Caleb led Lyra into the deeper part of the broken district, a place where even the walls seemed alive with quiet warnings. Rust coated everything. Old pipes rattled, dripping black water into puddles that reflected the faint glow of malfunctioning lights. The air was heavy, thick, and cold. Lyra's hand trembled inside Caleb's. She knew they were entering a place where even hunters feared to step. But she also knew something else. Caleb was the only reason she was still alive. "Caleb," she whispered, "is this really safe?" "No," he said honestly. "But we need to stay ahead of them. Down here, it's harder to track us." Lyra didn't know whether that was comforting or terrifying. They walked along a narrow path that opened into a large underground factory. Giant machines, long dead, stood in rows like metal giants frozen in time. Their cables lay scattered across the floor like tangled roots. Caleb stopped and listened carefully. Lyra watched him. He was different from the others, calm, brave, thoughtful. Humans were always described as dangerous, but she realized now that danger could also save someone. What did you mean? Caleb said softly. When you said the machine could destroy everything? Lyra closed her eyes. She did not want to remember. But she had to tell the truth. Caleb needed it. And he had earned it. I saw them standing around the symbol, she whispered. They were guarding a machine, a big one. A machine that wasn't from our world. It glowed with a strange light. It made the air heavy. Caleb's jaw tightened. What did they say? Lyra's voice grew smaller. They said it could erase entire cities. That one activation could wipe the sky clean. They called it the Dawn Star. Caleb froze. Lyra looked at him. Do you know it? Caleb knelt down and gripped her shoulders gently. Lyra, the Dawn Star is an outlaw weapon. It was banned in every system. Only a few plans were ever made. Most were destroyed. But if your people found one... He didn't finish the sentence. Lyra's voice cracked. They will use it when the sun rises. Caleb's eyes filled with urgency. Then we have less than a few hours. Before Lyra could speak, a loud metallic crack echoed from above. Dust rained down. The floor vibrated. Lyra gasped and grabbed Caleb's arm. They're here. No. Caleb said, his voice tight. This isn't the hunters. The sound grew louder, heavy steps, dragging metal, a deep machine groan. Something enormous was waking up in the factory. A massive shape moved in the shadows. Its red eyes blinked once, twice, then fixed on them. A forgotten security titan, 10 feet tall, rusty but active enough to kill, stepped forward. Lyra stumbled. Back, Caleb. I see it, he said, pulling her behind a machine. The titan slammed its fist into the floor. The ground shook. Old machines fell to the side. We can't run, Lyra whispered. We can't fight that. Caleb took a slow breath. We won't fight it, not head on. He scanned the room quickly, eyes sharp. Then he pointed toward a broken control bridge hanging above. If I can reach that panel, I can shut it down. It's too high, Lyra said. Caleb gave her a small smile. Then you'll help me climb. The titan roared and charged. Caleb grabbed Lyra's hand and sprinted toward a stack of old crates. He lifted her up first. Go. She climbed fast, ignoring the pain in her fingers. Caleb followed, pulling himself up just as the titan smashed the crates below them. Wood exploded into pieces. They reached the bridge. It swayed dangerously under their weight. Lyra crawled toward the control panel, but a hole in the floor blocked her path. I can't reach it, she cried. Caleb grabbed a cable and threw it across the gap. Tie it there. I'll swing across. She did it with shaking hands. Caleb took a breath and swung across the gap, just as the titan reached the bridge. The metal groaned under the giant's weight. Caleb! Lyra screamed. He reached the panel and slammed his hand on it. Nothing happened. It's dead. Caleb shouted. The titan lifted its arm to crush the bridge. Lyra's chest tightened with fear. Caleb! The cable cut the main energy. Caleb ripped open the panel and pulled out a cluster of glowing wires. Sparks exploded. The titan jerked violently. Its eyes flickered. Almost. Caleb gritted his teeth and yanked the final wire. The titan froze. Then it collapsed like a mountain falling. The bridge shook violently, sending Lyra sliding toward the edge. Caleb leaped and caught her just in time. His arm wrapped around her, pulling her back to safety. Lyra buried her face in his chest, sobbing. You saved me again. Caleb stroked her back gently. I told you. I won't let anything hurt you. She clung to him tightly, but the moment was short-lived. From above, loud mechanical whirs echoed. The hunters had found the entry. Caleb pulled back and looked into her eyes. Lyra, we need to stop the Dawn Star, he said, or the entire city will fall. Lyra realized something then. This was no longer just about her survival. This was now a fight for millions. And the only person standing between destruction and hope, was a single human who refused to abandon her. Caleb and Lyra climbed down from the ruined bridge, their hands tightly locked together. Dust filled the air, and every breath felt sharp. The broken district was shaking slowly, metal groans echoing like warning voices. The hunters were entering from above, cutting through the old tunnels with heavy tools. "They are close," Lyra whispered. Caleb nodded. "Closer than we want." He guided her behind a row of fallen machines until they reached an old maintenance shaft. A faint light glowed inside. Caleb peeked in, listening carefully. "It leads out," he said. "But we need someone to open the inner lock." Lyra bit her lip. "Who?" Caleb hesitated, then tapped a small device on his wrist. A blue hologram flickered. A man's face appeared, a human, tall, sharp-featured, with tired eyes. Lyra sensed something strange in him, something colder than Caleb. Caleb spoke quickly. "Jaren, I need your help. We're in the lower sector. Send a remote override for the shaft door." Jaren raised an eyebrow. "You're in the broken district?" "Caleb, what are you doing down there?" "Saving someone," Caleb answered firmly. "A girl." Jaren leaned closer, his eyes narrowing. "A girl? Or a witness?" Lyra tensed. Caleb frowned. "She's innocent." Jaren didn't respond immediately. The silence felt heavy. Finally he said, "Send me your coordinates." Caleb hesitated, but sent them. Lyra whispered, "Can we trust him?" Caleb placed a hand on her shoulder. "He saved me once. He won't betray us." But Lyra felt a cold sting in her stomach. Something didn't feel right. Minutes later, the shaft door clicked. Then it opened slowly with a metallic sigh. Caleb smiled. "See?" He helped. They stepped inside. The shaft was narrow, metal walls scratched with old markings. The air smelled like rust and electricity. Caleb moved ahead, guiding Lyra through the tight passage, but halfway through, Lyra froze. Voices echoed from the other end. Not just one voice, many. Caleb heard it too. He went stiff. No, this is wrong." Before they could turn back, the door behind them slammed shut with a loud bang. Lyra's heart dropped. "Caleb, they trapped us." The hunters were waiting at the exit. Through the metal grate ahead, Lyra saw masked soldiers lining the corridor, their weapons aimed at the shaft, their eyes glowing red, and standing beside them. Jaren, Caleb's friend. Jaren's expression was calm, emotionless. Caleb stepped in front of Lyra, shielding her with his body. "Why?" he demanded. "Why would you do this?" Jaren folded his arms. "Because you're helping the girl who saw the dawn star. She's not a child anymore. She is a threat." Lyra shook her head violently. "No, I didn't want to see anything. They want to kill me." "And for good reason," Jaren replied coldly. "If she speaks, the whole rebellion collapses." Caleb's eyes widened. "Rebellion? You're part of it." Jaren smiled faintly. "You think the Dawn Star belongs to her people? Humans built it first. We just perfected it." Lyra felt her heart shatter. This wasn't just about her people. Humans were involved. Even Caleb's friend. Caleb clenched his fists. "You lied to me. All these years, you lied." Jaren shrugged. "I told you to stay out of politics. But here you are protecting the girl who saw everything." He raised a hand. The soldiers aimed their weapons. Lyra grabbed Caleb's jacket. Her voice trembled. "Caleb, we are going to die." Caleb exhaled slowly and whispered, "Not if I can stop it." Then he moved faster than Lyra had ever seen. He slammed his shoulder into the grate, breaking it loose. Alarms screamed. Energy bolts flew past them. Caleb grabbed Lyra's hand, pulled her through the opening, and kicked the grate down as a shield. "Run!" he shouted. They sprinted through a side tunnel as soldiers fired behind them. Sparks rained like deadly rain. The ground shook with the force of explosions. Lyra's lungs burned. Caleb, we can't outrun them. Caleb skidded behind a huge old generator. We don't need to outrun them. We need to make them blind. He pulled out a small device from his belt, a flare emitter. If this works, he whispered, we get one chance. He slammed it onto the generator. A burst of white light exploded across the tunnel. The soldiers shouted, blinded. Caleb pulled Lyra through another vent while the chaos spread behind them. They collapsed into a dark drainage chamber. Lyra's hands were shaking. Caleb leaned against the wall, breathing hard. She grabbed his sleeve. Caleb, your friend tried to kill us. Caleb closed his eyes. He stopped being my friend today. Lyra's voice cracked. What do we do now? Caleb looked at her, determination burning in his eyes despite the pain. We stop the Dawn Star before dawn, and we do it together. Lyra stared at him. He had lost a friend. He had almost died. Yet, he still refused to abandon her. She reached out and took his hand softly. Their fingers locked. In that moment, surrounded by darkness, hunted by two worlds. They had only each other. The city above them was beginning to change color. Dawn was still far, but the sky had a faint gray glow that warned of the coming danger. Lyra and Caleb stepped out of the drainage chamber and into the upper sublevel, breathing heavily. Their clothes were dirty, their faces marked by fear and exhaustion, but their eyes were alive. We have one chance, Caleb said. If the Dawn Star activates, everything ends. Lyra nodded slowly. She remembered the glowing machine, the strange symbol, the officer's cold voice. She felt fear rise in her chest, but Caleb's presence grounded her. As long as he walked beside her, the darkness felt less heavy. They moved through a service tunnel until a door slid open automatically. Bright light filled the passage. Lyra lifted her hand to shield her eyes and gasped. They had reached the inner power station. Huge pillars of energy ran through the room like glowing rivers. Cables as thick as trees fed into a massive platform at the center. And there, standing like a metal monster, was the Dawn Star. It pulsed with slow, dangerous light. Lyra felt her knees weaken. It's waking up. Caleb scanned the room. Then we shut it down before dawn. They slipped deeper into the shadows, hiding behind tall generators. Voices echoed from the platform, officers giving orders, technicians adjusting controls, soldiers standing guard, and in front of the control panel stood Jaren. Lyra grabbed Caleb's arm. It's him. Caleb's expression turned hard, but his voice stayed calm. Good. I want him to see us stop this. Lyra looked at the glowing machine again. How do we destroy it? We don't, Caleb answered. It's too strong, but we can overload its core. And that will stop it? Yes, he said. But the explosion will destroy this whole room. Lyra's breath caught. Then you will die. Caleb met her eyes softly. Better one room than a whole city. No, Lyra whispered fiercely. Not after everything. Not after you saved me. You can't die. Caleb put a gentle hand on her cheek. Lyra, if I don't do this, everyone you know will die. Everyone I know. Everyone. She shook her head, tears filling her eyes. There has to be another way. Caleb stared at the glowing Dawn Star, thinking hard. Maybe, he whispered. Voices grew louder. Footsteps approached. Caleb pulled Lyra behind a large conduit. A soldier passed by, scanning the area. Caleb covered Lyra's mouth lightly, keeping her silent. She trembled in his arms, but she trusted him completely. When the soldier left, Caleb knelt in front of her. Lyra, I need your help. Her eyes widened. What can I do? You saw the ritual. You heard their words. You know the pattern they used to power the machine. Lyra swallowed. Yes, I remember it. If you can break that pattern even a little, the machine will stall, Caleb said. And I can reach the core without the explosion. Lyra trembled. I'm scared. Caleb cupped her face softly. So am I, but you are stronger than you think. I've seen it. Her heart warmed painfully. No one had ever believed in her before. No one. Except him, before fear could stop. Her, she nodded. Tell me what to do. Caleb smiled faintly, proud and grateful. Good girl. He guided her through the shadows toward a small auxiliary console near the platform. It had the same glowing symbol she saw in the storage hall. She felt her breath shake, but she steadied herself. Across the room, Jaren noticed something. He turned sharply. Caleb whispered, "Now, Lyra." Lyra's fingers flew over the controls. She repeated the ritual pattern, but then twisted it. Broke. It. Twisted it again. The symbols flashed red. Alarms blared. What's happening? A soldier shouted, "The sequence is collapsing." A technician yelled. Jaren's eyes widened. "Find the intruder now." He looked up and saw Lyra. His face twisted with fury. "You!" he shouted. "You ruined everything. Stop her." Soldiers rushed forward. Caleb stepped out of the shadows. Like a storm, he grabbed a metal rod and ran at the soldiers with fearless strength. He swung it hard, knocking two to the ground. Another tried to shoot him, but Caleb was too fast. He slammed the rod into the rifle and punched the soldier in the throat. "Lyra, keep going." Caleb shouted. She did. Jaren jumped from the platform and ran toward her, energy blade in hand. Caleb saw it. He sprinted. The two collided with a crash of metal and force. Jaren slashed, but Caleb blocked. Sparks flew. Caleb pushed him back. "You always were the fool," Jaren spat. Caleb grinned. "And you always talk too much." He punched Jaren across the face. Lyra finished breaking the sequence. The dawn star flickered, lost power, then shut down completely. The entire hall froze in shock. Caleb pushed Jaren to the floor. The soldiers hesitated. Without the dawn star, they had no purpose, no threat. Lyra ran to Caleb and threw her arms around him. "You did it," she whispered. "No," Caleb said, pulling her close. "We did it." She buried her face into his chest. Her tears soaked his shirt, but these tears were not fear. They were relief. Gratitude. Hope. For the first time since the nightmare began, dawn felt like a promise, not a warning. Caleb placed his hand gently on Lyra's head. "You're safe now," he whispered. "I told you, I won't abandon you." And Lyra knew it was true. He had saved her life,